Hello all, welcome to SAP DWC online webinar.
Hi everyone, good morning, and it's good to see a lot of people here on a weekend to learn about a new technology, right? So a little bit about myself. So I'm Ram. I'm a senior data architect. I have about more than a decade of experience in all tech SAP related to data analytics, right? So I started my career with SAP BW and moved on to SAP HANA, SAP BODS, SAP BW for HANA, and SAP Analytics Cloud, Data Warehouse Cloud, and Data Intelligence. So they are a suite of both on-prem and cloud tools, which are in the data analytics space in SAP, right? So now today we are going to see about Data Warehouse Cloud. What is Data Warehouse Cloud, and basically the architecture of it. Then we'll understand the key capabilities of Data Warehouse Cloud, and we'll see where it is positioned in a typical SAP landscape. And why is this SAP Data Warehouse Cloud gaining so much momentum in the recent days? What's all going on in the SAP world, right? And then there is a existing technology called BW, SAP BW and SAP BW for HANA. And if you are an existing SAP BW consultant, you will have this question in mind: is SAP Data Warehouse going to replace SAP BW, right? So we will answer that as well. And finally, we'll see who are all the typical or who are all the target audience to upskill in SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, right? And is it recommended, or is it the right time to do the Data Warehouse Cloud upskilling, and why is it so? We'll see at the end, right? So let's start with what is Data Warehouse Cloud first. So in general, if you have seen that the data analytics has become a central topic in any organization, right? So for any organization to survive now, they have to have cutting edge analytic capabilities. They need to know what is happening in the business, what is going to happen, and how can they take actions, right? And there are two components of SAP. So one is SAP Analytics Cloud, which does the reporting part, and another is this SAP Data Warehousing Cloud, which does the data warehousing part, right? So what is data warehousing? Just integrating with a lot of systems, both SAP and non-SAP source systems, collecting the data that is there, and then modeling, transforming that data and making it available for the reporting layer, right? So as simple as that. So what is SAP's Data Warehouse Cloud? So there are both on-prem solutions and cloud solutions from SAP in the data warehousing space, and data warehousing cloud is the latest solution from them. So it is a data warehouse as a service, and it's tailored for business and IT users. Why do we say it's tailored for business and IT users? So even SAP BW, there are some data, I mean, it has extensive data warehousing capabilities, but the drawback is it has a very long learning curve, right? So typically a person needs to be trained for at least 10 days or 20 days before they can become an user of SAP Business Warehouse, and then they can do their own modeling, etc. Whereas in Data Warehouse Cloud, you just have to have you know half, even quarter of the training that is required for Business Warehouse, and you can be already creating your own models and everything, because it is built from the ground up for a self-service scenario. So not only IT users or technical consultants, even the business users can easily pick it up, and they can do their own model building and report building, etc. Right? And this creates a way for business to have very quick times to their reports, right? And not only the self-service architecture, but also SAP in all of its or most of its tool, they give some business content which are pre-delivered for most of the typical business scenarios. So if you take financing, HR, or any typical reporting a company can have, there are already pre-built content. You just have to go in, activate, and then you can start using the reports. As simple as that, right? So this is what a data warehouse cloud is. So it is a data warehousing solution on the cloud, and it is a software as a service. It is built from the ground for self-service scenarios. So it has low code or no code at all. It's all click and configure, and it gives instant access to pre-built business content for various business scenarios, and it can integrate with a lot of source. We'll see that it can integrate with a lot of source systems, both SAP and non-SAP source systems, right? So that is what a data warehouse cloud is. Now let's see the architecture overview of data warehouse cloud, right? So data warehouse cloud has 4 layers typically. So one layer that sits beyond the walls of data warehouse cloud itself, and that is the data sources layer. So where all these source systems are, external source systems are, right? So there are both cloud-based source systems and on-premise source systems. Again, within cloud and on-premise, there are both SAP source systems, like which are products of SAP, SAP BW, or SAP S4HANA, SAP ECC, something like that. And then non-SAP source systems as well. Any database, any file storage, any cloud platform, any data lake, like that, right? And again, both it can be on a cloud or it can be on premise also. So that forms the data source layer. So this is the layer where the operational data resides. So if your company is into producing a product or a service, you will have transactions every day that get stored in some form of database, right? It can be a SAP database, like if you are using SAP ECC or SAP S4 for your sales, then your data will be there. Or if you are using a traditional web application and then you write back to a database, somewhere your transaction data will be stored. And this forms the operational layer. Now we will extract this data by connecting SAP Data Warehouse Cloud to any of your typical systems where the data resides, right? And in a business which is multinational, there will be hundreds of databases and data silos within database where the data is distributed, right? Now it is the core capability of any data warehousing solution to harmonize this data as it is being extracted from a wide range of data sources. So that's when we come into this data integration layer, right? So in the data integration layer, we have 4 main components. So one is in-memory storage. So if you know about SAP HANA, it is in-memory database itself. So the traditional databases, they have their data and the database application in disk, and then whatever is the current tables only are stored in memory. And because of that, a lot of swapping between disk and memory happens, and the query execution time is longer. Whereas in a SAP HANA database, everything is in memory. The database application itself and all the data and tables it uses, everything is in memory, and then it's fast query. It gives fast query response time. Right. Similarly, in Data Warehouse Cloud also, it is built on top of SAP HANA Cloud platform only. So its core database is SAP HANA. So because of that, it can make use of this in-memory capability, right? And for backup and fail rollover, it uses a disk also. Now, coming to the connectivity itself, there are 2 forms of connectivity. One is called replication. What do we mean by replication, right? So like we discussed, for example, let's consider our business is generating data and that data is stored in a Oracle database, right? So if we connect Data Warehouse Cloud using a replication type of connection, what we are trying to do is every day or on a scheduled time, the data in that Oracle database table will get replicated and a copy is made, and that copy data is stored within this Data Warehouse Cloud's database itself. So it is a duplication of data. There is a copy in the Oracle, the source system itself, and then again a copy or duplicate is made, and that data is also stored in Data Warehouse Cloud. And then we have virtual access. What do we mean by virtual access? So now if we use the virtual access type of connection to this Oracle database, then the data will not be copied to the Data Warehouse Cloud. Just a virtual connection is created to the Oracle databases table, right? So now what happens whenever a user he goes to one of this analytic tools and he sees a report. At that time, the query will get executed and it uses this virtual connection and it fetches the data from the source systems. So those are the core components in the data integration layer, right? So now coming to the data warehouse cloud, everything is in a service architecture. So you will have all the administrative services like security services, repository services, and then you will also have modeling services. So there are two types of modeling in data warehouse cloud, right? So one is called data modeling and another is called the business modeling. So now why do we have two types of modeling? In a typical warehousing solution, there will be just, modeling, transformations, integration, loading, etc. But there will be only one modeling. Why two modeling in data warehouse cloud, right? So like we discussed, data warehouse cloud supports two types of user personas. So one is your hardcore IT users who are more technical, and then you have business users who have more business knowledge, right? Now to cater to needs of both these groups, they have separated the modeling into data modeling and business modeling. So in data modeling, you do the heavy lifting. You do the connection with all these sources, you do the harmonization, you remove any anomalies, you clean up data, and all this happens, heavy lifting happens in the data modeling layer, and it is suitable for the IT users who train themselves to be a data warehouse cloud consultants, and then they have their core skills and they can do this type of hardcore modeling, right? And then this data modeling forms the basis or the foundation of the business modeling. So in the business modeling, we hide away or we abstract all these complexities, and also we provide synonyms, and then we create the layer so friendly to the business user, and the business models are in business language and they don't use any technical name. They use a very descriptive names so that the users can understand. And then the business users can do their own set of modeling in the business layer. They can create business models and use it for their ad hoc reporting, right? So all these services forms the data warehouse clouds. And then we have a lot of analytic tools in the consumption layer. There are third-party tools again, like how we discussed, there are third-party source systems. Here also there are third-party tools, like you can have Power BI or you can have Tableau, any reporting tool that you can think of has some way to connect to data warehouse cloud. Also, SAP has its own set of tools. We have SAP Analytics Cloud, which provides three capabilities: analytic, predictive, and analytic applications, etc. So there are a lot of ways in which the data warehouse cloud can bridge between data sources and your reporting layer. And that is the high level architecture of data warehouse cloud. So now moving on to the key capabilities of data warehouse cloud. So like we discussed, the product is built from the ground up for self-service data modeling and self-service analytics, right? So when it comes to self-service analytics, there is another tool called SAP Analytics Cloud. But yeah, within data warehouse cloud, also you can have some of the SAP Analytics Cloud, because there is an integrated, we'll see that in the hands-on demo. There is an integrated analytics that comes with the data warehouse cloud itself, right? So both the modeling and the analytics becomes self-service, and that is not forced into the solution. It was built like that. It was built for the end users in mind, right? And then we have some data demarcation, like we discussed. Still, there are some complexities in building the data model. That's why they have created two modeling layers. So one is the data builder and another is the business builder. So in the data builder, all the heavy lifting happens, where consultants like you who are skilling yourself, you go in and you do all the heavy lifting. And then there is the business modeling layer, where it becomes very easy for the business users to see that pre-built pre-built either the data builder in the data builder or the pre-built content delivered by the SAP, and then they can rapidly build their own business models in the business building layer, right? So that provides a data demarcation and that accelerates the time to insight. So you can just build a report in a couple of hours. Previously, it used to take weeks, right? So before a data from a database goes into a chart, it takes weeks. It took like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and now it has been reduced to hours. That is a big thing for a business, right? And then it provides, the data warehouse cloud provides a end-to-end data warehousing capability, right? And it also uses your existing investments both in your skills and your landscape, right? So if you have already have some type of SAP or non-SAP solutions like SAP HANA or SAP S4 HANA or SAP BW for HANA, SAP Data Warehouse Cloud is not threatening any of them. It can help or enhance the existing investments. Also, in terms of skills that the consultants have, if you have SQL skills, if you have used some form of SAP IDEs, Eclipse or some on-premise IDE, or if you have used the web IDE, all those toolings are going to remain the same, and you can use any of those existing toolings. And also your skill that you have in SQL, or if you have CDS view building, any skills that you have, that will also be reused. These are the core capabilities or key capabilities of SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, right? So now let's see a short demo, and then we'll continue again with the presentation. So any questions so far? So we have discussed about what is Data Warehouse Cloud, the architecture, and we have seen some of its key capabilities. Now we'll go in and see the Data Warehouse Cloud itself. But before that, do you have any questions so far?
Here, I'm using Natajin.
Yeah, please go ahead.
How about like does the DWC do support like a Delta capability either from a SAP source or a non-SAP source?
Yes, yes. There are a lot of for SAP sources. Yes, there is very out of the box. It supports Delta capabilities. For non-SAP sources, some of the sources we can model it in a way in which we get the deltas. But yeah, for SAP sources like S4 HANA, or if you are thinking about SAP BW, then the data sources that come with, if they have existing delta capabilities, then it's out of box delta will be supported in Data Warehouse Cloud as well.
Because right now I'm connecting to my either a DSO or a multi-provider or maybe a cube as well, in the matter of fact. So I was just wondering, like, if you're connecting to the DSO or maybe like cube, like how is it? How are you going to do the delta for those?
Okay, so we will take that question at the end,
Okay.
because I don't know the all the other audience, so I don't know if they even understand what a delta is. So
Okay.
this is a generic presentation. So to answer that, yes, we can do in multiple ways. So when you already talk about DSOs and cubes, I assume you are using BW, SAP BW, and connecting to SAP BW. So there are multiple ways to handle deltas, and also now we have SAP BW bridge as well, and there
Excellent.
is and there is direct. You don't have to reinvent, or you don't have to even do the data modeling layer in Data Warehouse Cloud. You can just, there is just a function module in BW, and using that function module, you can make the existing objects ready to be consumed in Data Warehouse Cloud. And then you come into Data Warehouse Cloud, and then you just do a replication process. And all those modeling you have done in BW, they get replicated and reusable in Data Warehouse Cloud. As simple as that, right? So yeah, so that's a good question, but it's a highly advanced question. So
I'll
let's,
wait. I got like some of those kind of advanced ones. I'll wait.
yeah, sure. Okay, so now let's move on to the demo. So this is how your Data Warehouse Cloud system will look like. So it has a web UI. So it's a cloud solution, and there is no standalone UI or as such. So there are some tools that can connect to Data Warehouse Cloud, but this is the typical web UI that you will see. So once you have an account, you will log in, like any typical web application, you will provide your username and password, and this is the home page that welcomes you. And then we have a side navigation bar which forms the main way to navigate in the tool. And then we have a title bar which provides some buttons here, right? So this one shows where you are currently. So I am at home, and if I go into something else, it will show the particular application that we are currently on. And then here we have something called as app switcher or a product switcher. So that switches between the different cloud products you have. So here we are in Data Warehouse Cloud. We can also switch to SAP Analytics Cloud, which is the reporting solution, right? So we'll see that. So let's go back to Data Warehouse Cloud. Okay. So now going to the main navigation, we'll see a lot of apps here depending on your roles, right? So here we have a demo account and the roles are limited. That's why we don't see a lot of administration related apps, but we see all the modeling related ones here, right? So like we said, the Data Warehouse Cloud is a data warehousing tool. So the first thing that any data warehousing tool has to do is connecting to the different source systems. So we have something here called as connections. So here is where the magic of integration happens. So here we go ahead and we create a connection and we provide the system details, and then the Data Warehouse Cloud gets connected to those systems, right? And then there are a lot of varieties of systems. So you can connect to cloud systems pretty much straightforward way because the data is already on the cloud. So cloud to cloud, there is no barriers. So you can easily connect. When it comes to on-prem systems, you might require some middleware or connectivity pieces because the on-premise system might be sitting behind a firewall, or it might be sitting inside an intranet, and then you have to expose that data or tunnel that data to act as if it is in the cloud, right? And then there are open connectors which supports third-party sources and SAP sources. So that's the first thing that we do in a Data Warehouse Cloud, and it is mostly like you do it in the start of a project, and then the system is connected, and you will only do maintenance whenever the system's IP address changes or the host changes or the username password expires, something like that. Only a periodic maintenance, but it is not a regular activity. It's like once or twice in a project kind of activity. So when you start, you create a connection, and then you regularly maintain it, but that's it. It's not a everyday thing that you do, right? And then you have data builder and business builder. And then we have something data access control and integration monitor. So what is data builder? So now we have the connections ready. So we are ready to connect to a particular source system and then extract data from it. Now, where do we put this data, right? So do we want to put it in a table, and then do we want to create any relationship between these tables? And do we want to create a view on top of that table, etc., right? So for all that, the SAP has provided this tooling called Data Builder. And in Data Builder, we have tables, views, entity relationship models, data flows, lookups, and task chains, right? So pretty simple, or the basic building block is the table. And then again, we have two types of tables. So one is called the remote tables. So if you remember in the architecture slide, we saw two types of connections. So one is virtual connection and another is replication, right? So if you create a physical table here, and then you can replicate the data, meaning the data is physically copied from the source system and it is stored within the Data Warehouse Cloud. But if you create a remote table, there is no physical movement of data. Here only the metadata table is created, which is linking to the original table in the original database. And whenever some query gets triggered, that query is handed over to the original database and the result is retrieved and it is shown to the users. But the user will see a physical table and remote table in a very similar way. He will not find any differences. He will only see the columns, the dimensions, the measures and their properties, but he will not see any difference in the underlying architecture of how the table actually works or it stores the data. Right? So that is the core building block of your data foundation. And then we have views. Right? So we have two types of views. So one is called the graphical view, which is like again a click and configure type, where you can drag and drop things around and then you can create a view. Whereas the other one is a SQL view, where if you have, like we discussed, if you have existing SQL skills, then you can write SQL scripts to create views, right? So for business users or with for someone who don't have SQL knowledge, they can still do some type of views using the graphical editor, whereas the power users or the IT users or the consultants who have very strong SQL knowledge, they do not have to create using the graphical view. They can even speed up the process by writing SQL scripts and they can create the SQL views directly, right? And coming to ER modeling, so in database, we have something called as entities and relationships. So what are entities? So each of the tables that we create, they are the entities. So you can have multiple entities in a typical business process, right? So if you are selling something, then you have customers as one entity, your vendors as one entity, your sales team as one entity, and your products as another entity. So there will be a lot of entities and there will be some connections between these entities, and even that a single entity can be broken down into multiple entities again, and they will have their own connections, right? So those connections are called as relationships. So if two tables, for example, an employee and a department, they share a connection, then that connection is called the relationship. So if we see from the employee table, then he has a relationship like works for in a particular department. So an employee works for say IT department. So the works for is a relationship. Now if we see from the department table to the entity table, to the employee table, then it's another reverse of the same relationship. So a department has certain employees, right? So these type of entities and their relationships can also be modeled in the data warehouse cloud in this ER models. Right? And then we have data flows, lookups, and task chains to enhance the data building capabilities. They are a little advanced, so we'll skip for this demo and we'll go to the business builder. So now we have created connections. We are connecting to multiple source systems. We are extracting data. We are putting them in some form of tables, and we have created some views. So all the heavy lifting is already done. And even the IT or the consultants, they could do a few more business objects or the business models as well as a starting point or reference for the business users, right? So in the business builder, you create all the entities, I mean all the dimensions, measures, and data sets. One thing to remember is till the data building layer, maybe you can have technical names, acronyms, etc. But when you come to this business builder, keep it very clean, descriptive, and understandable for the business users. So this layer have to be built with the business users in mind, right? So IT people can still build a lot of models here, and they typically do build also. And then business people can also come here, look at the existing models that the IT has built, and then they can also build their own models. And that's why this layer has to be very clean. Okay. So now we have multi-dimensional models. So still, the data builder, we were seeing tables which are two-dimensional. It has rows and columns. But whereas in the business builder, we are going to talk about multi-dimensional models, and we need to understand what are dimensions and facts first, right? So if a business process happens, something like sales, then there are a lot of measurements that we take. So we will see how many product got sold, the quantity of products. Did we sell 10 units? Did we sell 20 units? Did we sell 1,000,000 units? So we measure the quantity of the products we sold. And then how much we sold it for, the revenue, right? So how much did we make? So we also measure the currency. So all these measurements forms the facts of the business process, right? So what are we measuring? We are measuring sales, and what are we using to measure it? So we use the currency, the quantity, and whatever can be numerically measured for a business process. All those measurements will form the facts, right? And then what are dimensions then, right? Now we can say that we have sold so and so quantity and for so and so amount, but then the business can also cut across this using various dimensions. So they can say how much did we make in a month, how much did we make in a week, how much did we make in a day, right? So that is your time dimension. So when you bring time into picture, it slices the data like that. Similarly, if we think about who is the best sales manager, which sales manager sold how much. So when we bring in that dimension, it cuts across the facts in a different way. So whatever is a categorical data that we can use to cut away this facts or drill deeper into this facts, those forms our dimensions, right? So we can have in the sales process that we discussed, we can have customer as one dimension, vendor as another dimension, product as one dimension, time as one dimension, right? So there can be n number of dimensions. So basically, in a data warehousing solution, we are trying to create models to check our business processes and how they are performing. So we are basically trying to create some key performance indicator KPIs and some analytic dashboards. To farm them, we need to do some modeling in terms of dimensions and facts. That's what we are going to do here. So we have a, a wizard to create new dimensions, and we have a wizard to create analytical data sets. Now again, here there is no coding at all. So if you go into that, it will be a graphical wizard, and you can just drag and drop and create those dimensions and data sets. And again, because this is a business builder, everything here is very intuitive, and anyone with little training can do this. But again, that shouldn't be taken in a wrong way that this is going to replace the IT skilled crowd, because it is not so. The IT crowd can create highly specialized models, and they can also transform existing investments. Like we had a participant who had a call, who had a question saying that they have some form of SAP BW investment that they are trying to migrate, or that they are trying to use uh, in a sidecar with SAP Data Warehouse. So those types of situations require IT skilled users. That is not readily doable by the business crowd, right? So coming to the fact models, so we have something called as fact models that provides the foundation for all the analytic capability. You can also create reports on top of analytic data sets or fact models. So fact models are like cubes, like they are multidimensional. They have a centralized fact table connected to a lot of other dimension tables, whereas a data set is, uh, it's not a multidimensional structure. It is a transparent table-like structure. And then we have consumption models. So once you create a model, you can create various microcubes on top of this entire consumption model, which forms, say for example, there is a very big cube, there is a sales cube, but a particular group of people are only interested in a chunk of the data that resides in that. Then you can create different perspectives, and only that user group will have access, or they have interest in that particular chunk, can consume only that particular chunk, right? And then coming to any data warehousing solution, there has to be row level security to the data, right? So there is security in the system level. We can define who has access to the system and what types of roles do they have. Do they have access to data builder? Do they have access to business builder, etc.? That is different. That is a product level security. But coming to the model itself, say for example, there is a sales cube, and within the sales cube, you want a European user to only have access to the Europe data. You have an American user, and they should have only access to their markets, right? So this type of row level security can also be modeled in the using the authorization scenarios. Right? And then we have something called as data marketplace. So data marketplace is like a catalog, right, where we have some pre-built content, and we can make use of this pre-built content, and we can also build our own content, and we can also put them in the catalog, and we can consume them, right? So there are things like data products, and they are a little deeper. We'll come to that in the data warehousing session itself, but in for the demo, let's skip all this. So on a high level overview, this is how a typical workflow of a data modeling activity will look like. You will create a connection to a source system, and in some source systems, you might require to install and configure some middleware. For cloud source system, typically you don't need any middleware, so you just have to connect to them directly. And again, this connection activity itself is a rarely used activity. I mean, it's done once during start of a project, or and it's continually maintained, but it's not your everyday job, right? Whereas this data building and business building is a recurring activity. So every time you have a new requirement, you go in, you see the existing data and tables in the source system, and then you plan, you create a modeling plan of how you are going to create the business builder and the data builder objects for this particular requirement you have, and then you start building them. And then in the business layer itself, not only the IT crowd, but also the business users will create their own objects here. So it's always a good practice to keep the namings of all the objects in the business builder very friendly and descriptive, right? So with that demo, let's go back to our discussion on the data warehouse cloud. So any questions? I know the demo is, it's not too detailed. We intentionally kept it in that way because we have a wide range of audience, from experienced people to fairly new people. So that's why it's kept in this way. So in our typical learning, the training sessions, we'll have sessions where I, share my screen. I do building something. I build a connection or I build a table, and then the participant gets their own time and they do it hands-on with me. And whenever they have some questions, they share their screen. So it's a highly interactive, like in-person classroom training, where we interact, where we build things together, and any query that you have will be clarified then and there. It is not like a pre-recorded session where you have to have question, you have to post it into a Q&A session, and then someone takes time to answer that, right? So it's an interactive session. So this is how the typical classroom will look like. So I give a demo, you do the hands-on. When you have questions, again, we become interactive, we solve something. And then once we cover some ground, we have milestone exercises where we use the knowledge we gained so far to build something concrete and something that is like a real business scenario. And at the end of the overall session, we build a complete end-to-end project where we cover all the capabilities of Data Warehouse Cloud and build a overall milestone project. And that will act like, that will give you a real world experience of using the Data Warehouse Cloud as an entire tool in itself, right? So that is how a typical training session will look like. So now moving on to, okay, so we talked about Data Warehouse Cloud. We even seen the demo. We saw the first step, which is creating connections, right? So the power of the data warehousing tool comes from the integration capabilities it has with the source systems, the different types of systems that it can connect to and read data from, right? So now Data Warehouse Cloud can connect to all these SAP and non-SAP sources. So if you have seen, if you have worked with some of the SAP sources, it can connect to BW, it can connect to ECC, it can connect to BW for HANA. And if you have, if you see some of the popular non-SAP sources, it can connect to Google BigQuery, it can connect to Amazon S3 bucket, It can connect to Azure SQL database, Oracle database, Hadoop database, right? So it can connect to a lot of things, and it can also connect to IBM DB2, MySQL, PostgreSQL. So it can pretty much connect to a lot of things directly out of box. And there are also third-party connectors which further extend this connection capability. So if you find a very typical or a very legacy system that your business is using and you don't find a direct connectivity in the data warehouse cloud, there are a lot of SAP approved third-party providers who give these connectors for specialized systems or legacy systems which does not have this native connectivity, right? So you can also connect to even more systems with that type of third-party connectors. Okay, so why all this sudden momentum in this cloud space when it comes to SAP, or especially in the data warehouse cloud? Why it is gaining momentum, why it is being spoken everywhere? Let's see the different reasons, right? So SAP has started this movement called Rise with SAP. You can, after this session, you can go and Google it. So there is this movement called Rise with SAP. So what is that movement? So it is an initiative by SAP for its customers, where SAP says hand holds the customer for the customers' cloud migration journeys, right? So SAP traditionally has been around for 50 years now, and they have been pretty much for the most of their past years, they have been an on-premise company, meaning all their solutions were on-premise within a company's firewall. They are not cloud native, right? So now recently, keeping up with the trend, SAP is going cloud first approach, right? So all their solutions are going to be cloud first, which means not cloud only, they are cloud first, right? So with Rise with SAP, what SAP is doing is their existing customers, they might be using some of their SAP on-premise solutions. For example, they might be using SAP ECC. Then SAP handholds them, and then SAP gives them a detailed plan, and SAP even takes the implementation project for that plan, and then they walk the customers to a cloud journey. From SAP ECC, the customers will be brought to the SAP S/4HANA system, right? And that opens up doors for all this analytic applications like SAP Analytics Cloud and SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, because now the customers are migrating from their on-premise to S/4HANA on cloud, right? And then SAP sometimes, they bundle deals where they say, okay, with Rise with SAP, you also get some subscription to SAP Data Warehouse Cloud or SAP Analytics Cloud, and that drives a huge crowd that is coming into data warehouse, right? So the customers, they don't have to necessarily buy the data warehouse cloud licensing and then start implementation. If they had this Rise with SAP deal where the data warehouse cloud was handed over to them as a bundle for free for 1 year, 3 year, or 5 years, something like that, then that opens up the door for a lot of customers coming into the product, right? Because there are SAP has a huge customer base when it comes to SAP ECC or SAP S/4HANA front, right? So now, because there is this program and there is this bundling happening for data warehouse cloud, there will be a huge demand. There is already a huge demand, and this demand is only going to increase in the future, right? Because the customers are not only buying, there are buying customers who are buying data warehouse cloud out of their own interest, and there are also existing customers to whom SAP is also handing over this products for them to try, right? So that is going to drive the demand for highly skilled people, right? And then why is this hype about data warehouse cloud when SAP also has other warehousing products like SAP BW? Here it is mainly because of the no code or low code development tools and the hype behind them. So in 2022 itself, we have seen a lot of companies, even programming tools that are low code and no code. And in 2023, it's only going to increase. And even SAP has seen that, and they are also providing this low code no code approach to various tools they have. So data warehouse cloud is also built with this in mind, right? So when it comes to the other warehousing solutions like BW or BW for HANA, it's not necessarily no code tool at all. They provide extensive coding capabilities. You can enhance in anything that is existing in the system. You can create, customer exits. You can create your uh, own or customized solutions. Whereas the drawback is it has a lot of learning curve. You need to be an expert to use that tool. Whereas here the capability might not be so extensive, but the benefit is any user, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can use this tool. They can build amazing models and visualizations because they come from a business background. They understand the business better than any IT people, right? So if you enable these type of users with low code, no code tools, then it's going to be good for the business. So that is another hype that is driving SAP Data Warehouse Cloud to the front, because if you take a typical warehousing solution, it's going to be a huge learning curve, where here the learning curve is small. So that is driving the SAP Data Warehouse Cloud. And then as a service model. So what do we mean by as a service model? Typically, if you have to implement a data warehouse cloud, you have to buy a very huge server. You have to, maintain the Linux. You have to maintain the database. You have to have huge number of platform teams, platform activities. You have to buy the software, install the software, keep it updated. So the overall experience and overall investment that goes into even, get up and running is very high, right? If you even before you get your first report or your first model delivered, the time you spend and the money you spend is going to be huge investment. That is the typical on-premise model, right? You own it, you operate it, and then you get the benefits out of it. Whereas as a service model is like someone owns it, they operate it. It's a controlled release model where everything, the ownership, everything falls into SAP's hand. They have to provide data warehousing as a service to you. So it becomes so simple, and the initial cost is very low or very minimal, right? You pay per user per month or like that kind of deal, right? So now the time and money required to get into data warehouse cloud in a as a service model is very minimal. So more and more customers are adapting data warehouse cloud over a typical on-premise data warehousing solution, right? And then we have a wide range of connections like we saw just in the previous slide. It already out of the box, it supports almost all SAP sources and a lot of non-SAP sources. And not only that, there are third-party companies who are building connectors for data warehouse cloud and enhancing the reach even beyond. So there are a lot of systems, hundreds of systems to which data warehouse cloud can connect to, and that cannot be said the same way for any other ETL tool or any other warehousing tool in the market. And again, that is driving the data warehouse cloud sales, because natively it can connect to a lot of SAP source systems, right? Which the other connectors or other warehousing tools can struggle. So if a customer is having SAP related products, a lot of SAP landscape, then it makes sense for them to go to the SAP data warehouse cloud because of its native connection capabilities, right? And then SAP has this new SAP business transformation platform, or SAP BTP, and it has a lot of layers. And one of the core layers is called a data layer, and the data warehouse cloud forms the backbone of that layer. So SAP is heavily investing into this SAP business transformation platform, which is their front runner now. And data warehouse cloud being the backbone of that front runner gives it that much spotlight in SAP's mind itself, and that is only going to enhance the data warehouse cloud investment by SAP itself. So that product is not going to go away for at least for the couple of upcoming years, right? So you do not have to worry that if I learn the skill, will it be replaced in the near future? It doesn't seem so, because SAP strategies are aligned in a way that it's only going to increase SAP's investment into this particular solution, right? And then about the integration when it comes to existing investments. So within SAP itself, SAP Data Warehouse Cloud competes with another product which is called SAP Business Warehouse, right? So that is another warehousing solution in SAP itself. And there are customers who have SAP Business Warehouse and who have been operating it for more than 10 years, or they have been operating it for a long time. They have spent years in developing a lot of objects in that system, and now the data warehouse cloud is coming in, and will it cause any disruption? No, because SAP has worked and they have come up with a solution called SAP BW bridge. So this bridge is going to make sure that existing investments in the SAP BW, the cubes that is built, the queries that are built, all that becomes reusable, and there shouldn't be any redundant effort in the data warehouse cloud itself. And because of this type of bridging that is provided, that is also going to drive the need for the data warehouse cloud in the future. So these are some of the 6 main reasons that we feel that's going to drive the data warehouse cloud in 2023 and in the several upcoming years. Right. So now, in the last point, we said that data warehouse cloud is competing with SAP's own product called business warehouse. So the next question that comes to the mind of any SAP business warehouse user is that, is DWC going to replace BW for HANA? SAP says it's not going to replace it, and we can see why already. Like we said, SAP Data Warehouse Cloud and SAP Business Warehouse, they are for specialized needs, right? Where data warehouse cloud is as a service model and it has low code, no code approach, whereas the business warehouse is a on-premise, and it is, it has existing capabilities which are not there in data warehouse cloud, and it is highly extensible. It supports a lot of custom development, etc. So they both can complement each other. And there are a lot of hybrid scenarios in the customer landscape that we are seeing, where customer owns both the SAP BW for HANA as well as SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, and they operate it in in a sidecar implementation where they work together, and there is active development going on in BW for HANA as well. So if SAP is thinking that data warehouse cloud is going to replace BW for HANA, they should stop the development in BW for HANA, but we are not seeing that happening. There is always new and upcoming service pack updates and new versions that are coming in for SAP BW for HANA, and that is a clear indicator that SAP is still still investing and contributing and building the business warehouse. And then the data warehouse doesn't have all the capabilities that business warehouse has, and it is also it is also answering a different set of problems. So it is not going to replace the business warehouse cloud in the near future. Right? And also, any existing investments in the SAP BW is also going to be readily replicated to the SAP BW bridge space within data warehouse cloud. So there are this concept of spaces within data warehouse cloud. Spaces like a group, a data space where a group of people can work, and they can have their own logical data partitions, and they can do whatever they want in that space. So any existing objects, any DSOs, any queries, anything that has been already built in BW can also be replicated to DWC, and that is not going to waste any effort that is spent already on the BW, right? And again, BW and Data Warehouse Cloud, they both support a wide variety of tools, like on-premise tools like Eclipse-based ABAP ADT, ABAP development tools, or BW modeling tools, or UI5-based web developer cockpit, or admin UI, etc. And also there are a lot of we have just seen the data builder and business builder, and there are a lot of other third-party tools which are not shown here that can also connect to this both. So again, to answer the big question, is DWC a threat to BW for HANA? No, it's going to only complement and enhance whatever is there in BW for HANA, and they both answer different set of business problems. Right? Now, if you are thinking about a career in Data Warehouse Cloud, who does it suit? So in my opinion, it suits anyone. So if you are a college fresher, if you are coming into SAP as a new platform, it will suit you. It will also suit any experienced SAP folks. Like if you are a SAP HANA database developers, you have already have some kind of modeling knowledge. You might have built information models. You might have built calculation views. That skills are going to be readily reused in the data warehouse cloud. If you are a SAP BW consultant or BW for HANA consultant, you already have worked in an extensive data warehouse product, and that knowledge is going to literally translate into data warehouse cloud. And data warehouse cloud being the upcoming product from SAP, this is a right skill for you to upskill yourself. And if you are a SAP Analytics Cloud professional, you are already working on a cloud product from SAP. You are already doing reporting, visualizations, etc. And your your modeling capabilities can be upskilled, and you can go one level down, and then you can learn about SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, and you can build stunning business models, data models, and then bring them to your visualization friends. So any SAP Analytics Cloud professional will readily benefit from understanding the SAP Data Warehouse Cloud. And if you are data architects, both SAP and non-SAP data architects, if you are even a data pipeline engineer, if you are working in Python or anything where you build a pipeline, you extract data from multiple sources, then you are going to find it amazing that data warehouse cloud journey is going to be very easy for you, and it's also going to land you a lot of jobs which might be out of reach for a data engineer without the SAP branding, right? So now once you upskill yourself with SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, you can use your existing skills. Also, you can find other jobs in the SAP market, right? So if you are a SAP data services consultant, so data services was also a ETL tool in SAP landscape. Now with the SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, there is also a tight integration capability, and this transformation, loading and modeling, everything, all the skills you have working as a data service consultant is also going to translate. Again, if you are data analytics consultant from any SAP or non-SAP tools, if you are Power BI or Tableau, any experience, you will also find it interesting to work in the data warehouse cloud. So is it a recommended skill, and why do you, why do you find it good to upskill yourself in data warehousing cloud? The number one reason is it is a upcoming technology. We have seen that with Rise with SAP and with SAP Business Transformation Platform and all. Even SAP is funding and SAP is spotlighting this cloud products in their forefront. So it makes sense to learn them and upskill yourself in the upcoming technologies. And then there is a high demand for qualified professional, and the competition is very low, right? These tools have been only around for only a few years now, 3 to 5 years now, and there is very less qualified professionals when it comes to these tools. Whereas because of SAP's driving customers to these tools, there is a huge demand for qualified professional, and there is a skill gap now. And it is the right time to upskill yourself and fill the skill gap and get a job for yourself. And there is very low entry barriers, because it is not a tool that has been traditionally around. So there is not going to be an interview requirement where they say you should have 8 years of experience or 5 years of experience in this tool to get into the tool. So there is no rat race of have experience to gain experience here. It is a new tool, so they will accept that if you have a certified if you have attended a training, if you have got a training completion certification, and then you go ahead and say that, I haven't worked in a real SAP DWC project, but here I have trained myself and here is the certificate to prove that, then even that is enough to get you into the job market. And it is such a low barrier, uh, you know, technology where you can easily get a job. And traditionally, when you compare the salaries between any IT skills or even any analytic skills, when it comes to Power BI or Tableau, SAP skills have always been, on a higher pay scale. And the same is true for SAP DWC. You can go and do your own research on some of the job portals and Glassdoor or Fishbowl, sites like that. And when you see an average SAP data analyst salary, it will be always higher than any of your typical IT skills, right? So these are the main reasons that we find it interesting for people to upskill themselves in SAP Data Warehouse Cloud. And now is the right time to do the upskilling also. And yeah, Ankit, over to you.
Yep. Could you please click on this SAP DWC, the link?
Yes.
So, hi everyone, thanks for joining. So actually we conduct online training on a lot of SAP cloud and on-premise technologies. So we also conduct session on SAP DWC. So for people who wanted to upgrade themselves with this skill. So we have prepared a proper curriculum. If Ram, you can walk through on this quickly. So they will have at least idea what are the things we are covering, you know.
Yeah, sure. So this is a 24 hours duration, and then we have 3 hours pre-session, and 80% of the curriculum is going to be hands-on. It's going to be interactive. Right? It's not like a pre-recorded session or anything. It's a live session where you have a trainer and I demo something, you do the hands-on, and then we interact, you clarify your doubts then and there. And then we'll have a pop-up quiz, and then we'll have a mock test. And we also have a interview preparation session. After the entire training is complete, we help you prepare for an interview. We provide you with Q&As, and the sessions will be recorded, and the recordings will be you will be given access to the recordings as well. So if you have missed something, or if you want to re-watch something after a few days, you can do that as well. Now coming into the course curriculum, so this is the day one. So we'll show you the day-wise curriculum. So we will have a introduction to the Data Warehouse Cloud on day one, and then we'll go into administration, space management, user management on day two. And on day three, we'll go into the data modeling concepts. And this is day four. You'll have the business modeling nailed down on day four. And on day five, connectivity to various, Google Cloud Platform, Google BigQuery, etc. And day six, you'll have connecting to the data provisioning agent setup, and working with ABAP tables, queries, and info providers. And day seven, we cover something on the reporting. So we also have trainings on SAP Analytics Cloud as a whole, but here we also see some visualization capabilities, teaser, if you will, or if you are a data warehouse consultant, the basics or the good to know features of SACs will be covered. And then on day 8, we take a deep dive. We dive into the advanced concepts of maintaining hierarchies, text time, input parameters, etc. So that is a high level overview on the day-wise curriculum. And yeah, over to you again, Ankit.
Okay, thank you, Ram. So, so I know we have 7 minutes. We are delayed. No problem. So I can definitely ping our details. If you want to, you can contact us if you're looking for training.
Thanks for watching the video. Please hit the bell icon below.